Welcome to Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey, the podcast where we share valuable insights, resources, and motivation to fuel your entrepreneurial spirit. Let's build a supportive community together. Don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to podcasts and be part of this journey. Let's pause for a moment to hear from our sponsors. You've built a name for yourself through hard work and dedication, but does managing the business side feel like a distraction from your true passion? Are you dealing with unmanaged finances? CME Accounting LLC is here to help. We specialize in organizing your financial records, allowing you to focus on what you do best. With organized books, you'll have more time for what inspires you. Whether that's expanding your influence, building relationships, or simply enjoying life. Don't let unmanaged finances hold you back. Reach out to CME Accounting LLC today and let us help you thrive. Visit our website www.cmeaccountingllc.com or email us at admin@cmeaccountingllc.com. All right, let's jump back into our conversation.
Welcome to Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey. Today, we're having a regular conversation between two friends. We are approaching the end of this second season of Begin, Build, Blossom. Can you believe it? It's been almost 2 years since Clarita had this wonderful idea of learning from other persons in business. In her second season, I came on board. So we're here to just have a bit of a conversation, a relaxed one about how things have gone over the last season, as well as looking back a little bit to the first season and how far we've gone, what our plans are as we proceed to the next season. So Clarita, we're here.
Yes, we are. And while you were talking, I was just thinking, do you remember the time before you joined, like the conversations we used to have about starting this and where we are now?
Yeah, I remember you saying you wanted to do this podcast and you're starting a business, and I'm like, okay, a podcast. And I didn't give it a lot of thought. And then I saw you got started. As a matter of fact, I could recall when you would do in your initial stages, carrying out what we would call a survey to come up with your design, come up with the questions, come up with the sort of things that listeners might want to hear or learn from. So it's really great, and I'm really thrilled, as they would say, to be part of it now. At that time, I had no thoughts about being a co-host on the podcast. I'll be very honest. I was just about, okay, you send this thing, you want some feedback, let me do the feedback for you. And I was really happy to see, I remember you having 2 images, one with a tree and one without a tree. And I said to you, oh, the one with the tree, people will like that. And I give you the reason why.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said, oh, really? Okay. And when you did make the final decision, I saw a combination of those 2 that I thought would have worked well. So I suppose it was providence that I am here today with you. She's laughing because we had a little joke offline about providence. So
yes, just earlier she mentioned providence in a conversation, and I'm like, what part of London is that? That's why she's laughing. Yes, so I remember asking you your feedback, you along with some others, but I think further down the line, you talked about wanting to do something yourself, not so much this podcast, but something kind of in the same space.
Yeah, I think 2 things happen really is when you started the podcast, I said to you, oh, there are some people in the UK that I can introduce you to who would be really good for the podcast. And I remember you trying to reach out to one, and that was a bit of a challenge. And to this day, we haven't interviewed that person yet, but I will get them.
Actually.
Yes. So, and then as we were having that conversation, I think the other conversation on this other idea I have came up, but you said to me, oh, why don't you come on board and, join the podcast? And I thought, okay, not a bad idea. So I truthfully, I didn't even give it a second thought. I'm like, okay, sure. I don't see why not. I like to talk too, but in a different way. And it would certainly help you. You indicated, it'll be easier for me to do to interview the individuals on this side because we've learned that scheduling the time and getting it right is also a challenge across time zones. And I'm normally 4 or 5 hours ahead of you. So it became a no brainer. And of course, friends help friends. I was just here to help my friend. That was it. And now it's been building and blossoming into something really exciting.
Yes, exciting indeed.
How has it been for you to have help? And what do you recall from that whole conversation and connection?
Yes, I remember it being very scary to start, but I figured I'm gonna do it anyway. And I'm kind of the person who'll be like, I want something done, and I would happy to get somebody else to do it and push them forward. But if it's not gonna happen, then I'm gonna do it myself. In this case, it was not quite the thing there because it's something I wanted, but I didn't really want to be the face of it. Up to this day,
Yeah, and your face is all over the fly. Hmm.
I know, right? Thanks to
Yeah,
Neil
she had a
kindly.
photo too, and I did say, I don't know about that photo, but yeah.
Yes, really, really. It's so interesting thinking back. I didn't actually, the first photo was one I really didn't want on there, but I'm like, you know what? This is happening. We'll figure it out as we move on. So I remember those early conversations with you, and it was honestly, it was just I saw it as something great inviting you on. And since you've been on the podcast, there are new perspectives. We've had new guests. You've opened up your network. So our networks are kind of working with each other now. And I feel like you help with the work as well. And one of the things we did to kind of make it easier to get into it for you was me being a producer. So I would join on the
Yes.
calls.
So that's an interesting one because the first solo episode happened by random and not by plan.
Yeah, although I had been wanting her to do her own, but she was a little, like hesitant. Like, well, not just that. Also, we were trying to have a few episodes together so that, people kind of get a sense of what's happening. We didn't want it just, we didn't want it to be abrupt. But then we hadn't figured out when exactly that would be when Angela would be comfortably enough to do it on her own. And then it kind of just happened. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it happened. This was our guest. We could actually say who it is. It's Sylvester Herman from Highland Slice. Island Slice, that is. And we were scheduled to do this interview. I think something happened that we had the interview scheduled before it was supposed to. We needed a recording, and I think you said, okay, let's do this. I called him. He said, yes, he's available. And we were all set to do the interview. We had strategized before and everything.
Yeah, I think it had to do with the day. There was a little bit because he's in Scotland, you're in London, and I'm here in New York. There was something with the time
I can't
zones.
remember what happened. Yes, something to
Right.
do with the time. And so it happened when we didn't really intend it to. So we had the plan. And so we agreed I would start off the interview and we'd have the conversation. And we're starting off the interview. Sylvester and I are chatting like old buddies and so on. And then I said, over to you, Clarita. And Clarita says, oh, why don't you two just continue along? Because I'm just enjoying being in the background listening to this conversation.
Yeah, I'm like, why mess up something that's working?
Yes, that's how the first solo episode occurred.
Yes, because that is one, and that brings us back to you sharing people names from your network with me and me reaching out to them. And that's different from you being the one to reach out to them
That is very true.
and actually having that connection and having those interviews. It's very different. And I saw it like play out in front of me where we were on that call a very long time with Sylvester. Sylvester got to meet my mom. I found out Sylvester.
Is this something
Sylvester,
related?
yeah, it was quite interesting. So all that to say, we did kind of had a bit of a rapport leading up to the actual interview, but nothing trumps you having that actual connection, knowing him, and having that real beautiful conversation. And I did not want to spoil that. I was sitting here, I had already made up my mind. I'm like, Angela, just keep going. When you would pass it on to me, I'm like, nope, I'm good. So it was really nice to just be the one in the background listening and just being there and seeing you do your thing. And I've had the opportunity to see you do that many times now. And it's really beautiful to see. So I really look forward to more from both of us.
Yes, I'm excited for some of the guests that I've spoken to and who have agreed to come on. So our next season is going to be very interesting. We have a lot of guests who are involved in entertainment or in writing, in business. So it's going to be really good. I wanted to go back on something you mentioned, which is so critical, relationships. And that is very true because perhaps the conversation, Sylvester is from Island Slice, is a very outgoing gentleman, but still having that rapport, I think helped the interview to go a different way. So it's really good in someone I might meet somewhere and say, okay, would you like to come on the podcast? They agree. They will respond differently to me than they would to you. And it's the same for someone you would have met because they've met you in a particular circle. They have, we'll say for now, a perception or a point of view or a connection with you. And that's where the relationship would start. So it's really critical. And so it also, when I attend functions now, which I've always done in a sense, look at who the guests are that are really insightful, who have information that they're sharing genuinely and they're free to share. So now I'm looking at, would that person be a really good guest for our show? Do they have a story that people can relate to? But not just relate to, but what they will share, will it be practical? Is it something that they can easily apply? So those are the things that are in my head now. So I'm attending functions in different ways, different capacities. It's exciting as well, to just see how people think. And my first thing, something popped into my head as to why I was like, I don't know if I'll be on this podcast because I don't have a business per se at the moment. I'm in full-time employment. And just speaking to you and saying, you know what, you have all this experience, all these things that you know and you've done, you can share or you can bring. And so we always think that we don't have enough to share. And it really is there until someone from the outside says, oh, but you know this, you know that. And why don't you contribute? So I'm really glad to have a friend like you who can help in that way. And
well, thank you, Angela. And it's
oh my gosh, what is that?
But it's good to listen as well. And we've talked about that many times on the podcast. The fact that people see things in you and also you being receptive to that and taking action.
That's true.
And I was going back to our first set of interviews. I think it's really nice to be able to, when we interview people together.
Yes.
And we will do more of that once we can figure out schedules and all of that. It gets very hectic over here on
Oh, yes.
this podcasting thing is not easy.
No, it is not. It is not.
Yes.
As you say, going back to the first one, our first interview as well was forced upon us because we had this plan. Well, you had this plan. I was just going along with it. That we would do it to the end of last year. And then our first guest that we interviewed, which was Jeremiah Alberti, who currently has a restaurant in St. Lucia. Check him out. I think it's upstairs, the Anchorage by the market. Just go look for him. And he said he had big news. And we now had to rush and find a date. We've been scheduling for months, listeners, or viewers, by the way. We'd been scheduling for months that we were going to do this thing. And we didn't. And then he says he has these big news. And it's time sensitive. So we had to drop what we were doing to figure out a day to record this thing. And that's what we did. And that's our office. We got started. Yes.
And our poor editor, he had to.
Yes. Expeditiously.
Yes. So we explained to him that this is happening. We're like, we don't know what the big news is, but he says he has big news. So let's get it done before this date so it can be released before the news happens.
So you say that, then we had that interview, that intro interview that we had to do before Jerry came on.
Yes, so that means exactly
everything.
The schedule was not just Jerry's interview. We now had to go and do our interview together to introduce you. So we may have actually recorded Jerry's on before we recorded yours, but we had to schedule it in a way where one came before the other. So there's a lot of stuff, logistical stuff that happens.
Yes.
So it's been quite a learning process and I've enjoyed it and I think I'm better for it. And now we've been considered professional interviewers. So that is,
Yes, we're now podcasters. Yes.
yeah, so that's amazing. And that takes us nicely to our build segment. If we're going to follow that format, even though we're just going to be speaking more casually and loosely today. So I think one of the building things is actually having in-person interviews. So we're fortunate to have you. You've conducted the very first in-person interview.
Yes.
So congratulations. And
Thank you.
yes, we'll be wrapping up the season with that. I think there were at least two other opportunities to have in-person interviews that have not quite worked out. There was one that kind of, I don't even know how to.
Let's just say it's thrown us off in a tangent. It went sideways, as somebody likes to say.
So part of this is learning, right? So one of the things we've learned as podcasters is that guests are sometimes, how would I put that, Angela?
Not as expected. Or they have a particular perception of how things are. And
Yeah, or
always
their own
communicate.
agenda, I would say. And that's not the norm. We've had amazing guests and people have just been happy to share and have just been great guests. But one person in particular, I had invited to be on here and it worked out where she decided that we can do some kind of collaboration where we can do something in person and have it as the podcast. So it was one of those situations where we wanted to kind of capitalize on the resources. So the person I was interviewing would get what they wanted and I would get the podcast out of it. But one of the things I learned there is contracts. So we have agreements where we kind of outline what the expectations are and people get to read that and sign it before they come on the podcast. That's how it should work anyway.
Yes.
But we're learning there to, putting things in place to make sure that's done. So with this particular person, by the time it came to that, we didn't quite agree on the terms. Because it changed a little bit because the scope had changed. It became something where last minute, we had already made all the arrangements. I had already gotten childcare.
Your
I had
outfit
done all
done, your makeup plans.
I tell you, yes, I was going to go to a makeup artist. And I actually had an outfit and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be doing this in-person interview. And I think I actually posted on WhatsApp these cue cards that I had printed out. And it was very exciting. And I had let the person know that this would be the first time. And, I'm just really excited. And at the end, it really did not work out. And that taught me that things can change very quickly, that it's very important to have agreements in place so that everybody understands what's happening ahead of time rather than having a whole issue afterwards. So I was not even upset. I was just relieved in the sense that at least we did not get into something that we have to figure out after, that we realized it was not something that would work before we actually went ahead and had the interview. And another thing I learned there too was to just be open to those changes. And it was quite a learning experience and I learned from it. And so all that to say, I am glad that yours went without hiccups and that and that we will actually be airing it soon. It's actually in production right now.
Yes, it
I
is.
have had a chance to see the preview. And maybe you can tell us just a little bit about your guest.
Okay, so a little bit about the guest. Yes, it was a very exciting production because, like you, we did capitalize on the resources of the day. I'm also doing another series that was recorded on the day, and we'll release that one shortly. You'll hear more about it. Follow the St. Lucia High Commission so you can hear about that project. But in terms of the guest is Winston Branch. He is a renowned St. Lucian painter. He's a former professor, and he is the ripe age of 78 and still painting. So you will learn more about him from the interview. We interviewed him in his studio, so you will definitely see a very high level of comfort in his zone, and he's quite free-spirited. But one thing I can say is he is a pot of wisdom that it remains timeless. The information and nuggets he will share in that interview, anyone can apply it. Whether you're in business, whether you're a professional, whether you're a student, you're a child, you're in sports, you can apply those principles. And guess what? He's doing well. We'll get to hear about his lost paintings as well that were found in Germany. So he'll tell us a bit about that. So we're really excited about it. It's full of color, as Clarita would tell you. As well, it's a lot of color. So we're really excited. And that he's agreed. He's a promoter. So we're looking forward to this podcast going places.
Yes.
What I could say when you were sharing about, having things in place, the contracts and the things we've learned, I think I'll just identify 3 things I've learned so I can remember them. Let's enumerate them. And one is to be flexible. I could recall that we had a recording done, and after the recording was done, we couldn't use it. The information was good. It was solid, but it wasn't continuous. So it's to say that we must ensure that our guest has the right equipment for the recording. And new season, we need to be very strict about, do you have the tools? If you don't have the tools, I'm sorry, we're not going to waste your time and our time to put something together that will not work. The second thing is that the times are clear. Because we're operating in different time zones, one particular guest, we were waiting for this gentleman for almost an hour. And so Clarita says to me, are you sure he knows what time it is? I said, Clarita, I told him what time it was. We spoke yesterday. So he ought to know. She said, but Angela, you should. This is exactly what she said. You see, she's laughing in her voice. We're calling him direct, calling him on WhatsApp. We didn't get him. Eventually, we got him. What did he say he was? He overslept. His alarm didn't go off. So, I'm like, his alarm didn't go off. Did he remember the time? Or is it that his alarm didn't go off?
Let's pause for a moment to hear from our sponsors. You've built a name for yourself through hard work and dedication, but does managing the business side feel like a distraction from your true passion? Are you dealing with unmanaged finances? CME Accounting LLC is here to help. We specialize in organizing your financial records, allowing you to focus on what you do best. With organized books, you'll have more time for what inspires you. Whether that's expanding your influence, building relationships, or simply enjoying life. Don't let unmanaged finances hold you back. Reach out to CME Accounting LLC today and let us help you thrive. Visit our website www.cmeaccountingllc.com or email us at admin@cmeaccountingllc.com. All right, let's jump back into our conversation. I don't remember, but I just know it still ended up okay. We actually spent hours
Yes.
on the online.
I mean, we spent our whole day. That was not the plan.
I know, but it's so beautiful though to be able to have those conversations. Sometimes you're meeting with people that you have not seen or spoken to in a long time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a new person that you're speaking to, but the conversation just keep going on.
Yes.
So even being flexible, like leaving time, buffer time to be able to have those conversations. So I would say that.
That's really important. The third thing is to ensure that all contractual arrangements are in place before. We're dealing with media, we're dealing with profiles, so it's very important that we ensure that guests sign off on use. And so that's a lesson we've learned in the last season. And so coming up in the new season, we'll definitely be enforcing that. Yes, we would love for you to be on, but these are the parameters within which we operate. So it's something that we'll have to ensure because we had a challenge there, an unexpected challenge. That's what we'll see.
Yes. And there's a difference in having things in place and actually making sure that you follow it. So we've always had the agreements. We've actually improved it over time. So it is a very fair agreement where both the host and the
we've
guest,
looked at others and
Yes. And we made sure it was very important to us, worked with the attorney. The attorney probably would have said, hey, you need something stricter. but it was important that it was a very balanced agreement. So we have that. And we have processes in place where people schedule their interview and then they get the agreement. And it's a whole system that we have going on here. We are still trying to figure it out in terms of the UK part of it because we need to integrate Angela in the system that I'm using. And we need to figure out the time zone differences. So we're figuring that out. But in the meantime, we're making it work. But the issue is that at first it was easier for me to be able to go in and see, okay, this person has signed off so we can proceed with the recording. But that's not always possible because it's just the two of us. We have full-time jobs. Well, technically I work for myself, but it's still a lot of work. And so it becomes very, very difficult to manage all of that. So eventually it would be great to have a virtual assistant. And that's another lesson there too, because I did try out a virtual assistant, but part of what Angela kind of brought to my attention is having SOPs. So I didn't quite have that. It was like I had told this person.
Yeah, she was just letting the person do what they want. That's the simple way. I'm just being a little rash. She didn't have the standard operating procedures. She didn't have the follow-up in place, which was necessary.
Well, I was clear about that in the sense that I'm like, I'm bringing you on to help me because this is getting very overwhelming and it's a hot mess over here. I'm trying my best and there is some structure, but I just can't do it by myself. So I figured since we were clear on that, and since they made it clear that okay, I can come in and help you, I figured okay, then I've kind of said what I need so that person will make it happen.
I think for you it was a follow-up situation because I believe if there was a clear part of reporting and follow-up, it might have worked better. So it's a lesson learned.
Yes, and I think part of that too is I was engaged with somebody who also had a full-time job. So there is, and then that person was also in school. I know what it's like to be in that situation.
You had a level of expectation that you're bringing someone on board, you don't need to spoon feed them. That you give them a task and they should be able to deliver and follow up with you if needs be. Would you say that?
Yeah, to an extent, but it's not so much the spoon feeding because I made myself available to have conversations. Like we had a lot of discussions around what was needed. I think it was more of a time factor. I think they could have delivered, but
they were trying to do too many things.
Yes, there was that challenge. And I personally.
An overcommitment.
Yes, basically that's what it was. And I literally know what that's like. So I was trying to be very understanding of that. But at the end of the day,
it was too
not
understanding.
I am guilty of that most times. So we eventually, I remember reaching out to Angela. I'm like, I need to stop this engagement because it's not working out. And I've had several conversations with this person and I like this person. I think this person is capable, but it's not the right time or engagement. So I think the person handled it okay in the sense that, they were not rude or anything like that. We just kind of understood that's where it was and we disengaged and that worked out well. But I guess, going back to where this conversation started, it was getting the contracts signed off. I was hoping that would be part of what a virtual assistant would be helping with. I mean, I go in the system and I can see it's not signed off yet and I can send a reminder, but to actually have eyes on it and make sure that it's done within a certain time, that's where the difficulty is because it gets very overwhelming. And we've had some instances where like people would be like, well, they just chose not to sign it. I'm like, if you have a problem with somebody's agreement, you reach out to them and you discuss it. And I have that. I have to sign agreements too when I get on other people's podcasts. Well, those who have it. And I would encourage every podcaster to get an agreement, even though it's a simple one. But if I have an issue with somebody's agreement, I have a conversation and we work on it. When I first started, some people did give me feedback and I went back to my attorney and I had the attorney change things. And now I'm very comfortable with the agreement. So I would say that's very important to just kind of figure out a system that works We're still learning. We don't have it figured out yet. It's just good that we've identified what those are and we know that we will be working on them.
Oh yes, most definitely, I would say. So it's certainly the hope is that we can build the podcast to a position where it can finance itself and as well help us to bring on board this virtual assistant to help make things easier for us. Because right
Yes.
now we're booking, we're recording, we're reviewing to edit, which we would have to do to review to edit to see what is said and to ensure that the podcast is reflected in a good light and the guest is reflected in a and Clarita is very good at making sure the guest is reflected in a good light.
It's important. It's important.
Yes, but we both share the same concept, in how
Yes.
people appear because this is out there for posterity. So
Yes. And also just the people we've been able to get on here, like from somebody who's just starting out to somebody like Winston Branch who's been doing this forever. So it's great to be able to see that and to know that people are willing to share their stories and to trust us with their stories. We don't take that for granted.
yes, yeah. So as you're saying that, who would you say is one of your most engaging guests or someone you really enjoyed interviewing? This is not to say you didn't enjoy interviewing everybody else, but there's always somebody who brings a different view.
Well, when you said that, the first name that popped to mind is Eustacia Herman. And that brings me to networking. I met her through Lisa Dublin's Speak with Confidence program. And since then, I've gone to retreats that she's had. She invited me to an event recently at the mayor's office. We just literally just talk on the phone. So, and I've actually spotlighted her as well. So she's been on the spotlight segment. And with hers, I think it was very engaging. She's very authentic. She and the follow up too. After it was released, she ensured that she shared the link. So the numbers just kept climbing in terms of who viewed it. And I think that's one thing though we need to talk about some more. The guests sharing the episodes, because I don't quite understand it, but sometimes the guest just comes on, they get interviewed, and then that's it. I've never understood why they wouldn't share it, because I feel like there's so much to leverage there.
Yeah, and that's really true because I would think that someone has helped you to tell your story. That's an easy way. That's an easy sell. You have nothing to do except to share it. And we've seen it in the views from those who have shared it. So we'd love to encourage people, if you haven't done that. I know there's one person I chided and he says to me, "Oh yes, Miss Angela, I know. I take your chiding. I haven't done it." So he knows himself. So yeah.
I get it though, but it would just be nice.
I think though maybe people are there's a word I'm looking for. It's like, I don't know if I want to share it. It's me. Oh, I don't want my friends to see it. But why did you do it then? I think it is an internal thing of thinking if they share it, people might look at them a particular way. I don't know.
It's possible. So if you're listening to this and you've been a guest, please feel free to share with us why you probably would not share the episode, because we make sure that it is of good quality as much as we can. We make sure that we really take care sharing your story, and we do it knowing that this could really help people get to know you better. And what's the best thing in business? Knowing somebody. That's when you trust them. That's when you want to do business with them.
Build that rapport.
Yeah, so there is definitely a benefit there. And we're hoping, as we're finishing up on the build segment, we're hoping to also be able to help people advertise through the podcast. And that's a way of also helping us to build the support that we need to keep the podcast going, because it is quite expensive to produce, and it's good to get that support.
Yes, definitely. So if you're out there listening and you can offer some, definitely reach out to us. Feedback on what you'd like to hear, also on potential guests that you'd like to hear from who may be in our network, who we can reach out to. But
we love reaching out to people we don't know, people we've only heard about 2 seconds ago. It's what we love doing. So share those names with us and we will
And
happily.
we'll try our best. Yes. We've reached out to some people, so we're hoping we'll get positive
Yes, and
feedback.
people are so receptive. And I would say on the building side too, it's the panel discussions. It's one of those things that I'm very passionate about because through the different episodes, we could tell that there's one business that builds on the other, or they may be in the same space, right? So it's nice to just have more in-depth discussions. So that's something we're working on as well.
In person meet.
Yeah, so
A
I think
retreat, somebody. I think Clarita spoke of a retreat. She has this idea, so I'm listening.
yes. I see all the podcast guests together in a room, networking, getting to
In
know
a
each
room or
other.
a space?
A space.
Yeah, I think in a room. To get in a space.
Yeah, let's say in a space, yes.
Yes.
Where they share that's something that they have in common, that they've been on the podcast. They all have, they represent different industries or different expertise. And they're in that space, getting to know each other. And who knows what collaborations can come out of that. And maybe even inviting guests, especially those starting out, to come meet those people. So there's a lot that can happen there, but it is definitely something we have in the works, or at least we envision.
As you said, in the works. Adding to that, merchandise. We'll be coming out with some Begin, Build, Blossom merchandise. You can have your own jumper, your t-shirt, your notebook, just helping to encourage you as you go along on whether it be your professional journey, your business journey, your sporting journey. So we're excited about this aspect of the podcast.
Yes, very, very excited. Oh my gosh, this is all so exciting.
We're going to have cute stickers saying Begin, Build, Blossom.
Yes. And it's crazy because it's stuff you think about, but when you're actually working with someone and you could actually see really how this can unfold.
As we said that, Clarita was talking about it, and I'm saying, Clarita, you need to get. I think I saw it somewhere, and I said, oh, you could get these for the podcast.
Yes, and I think my response was, yes, it's something I'm thinking about, but it's a lot to do. So it's
Yeah,
nice
and the
to
other
have
day I told
somebody.
her, listen, we need to get these things. So here we are. So we've started the process.
Yes, definitely. So we're almost out of time. So let's move on to the Blossom segment. So Angela, what do you see in the future for you as a podcaster?
Do I see the future? Well, certainly I hope that fate, providence, whatever we'd like to call it, will allow us to grow the podcast to a point where this can be our life, to a point of us being able to bring to a reality the retreat. For me, I see it as an opportunity to get into this media space that I've always had in my head, and it is blossoming into a lot of speaking opportunities. I was on my first panel ever. I didn't ever think I had anything to say on a panel, but I was on a panel navigating crossroads. And for the first time, I was really happy with my speaking on something like that. I've hosted lots of events. I've given remarks and all these other things. But this is one time I'm not very critical of myself. So I think two things contributed to my work on the podcast. Perhaps three things, I would say. Three things contributed to that level of confidence is participating in this Speak with Confidence program that we both did, and I was encouraged to do by Clarita. Working on the podcast and just having a conversation with someone else, because the host of that panel discussion said to me, but yeah, you have stuff to say. Because I personally said, I don't think I have anything to share. And she started asking some questions. And then she said, but yeah, you do. And it made sense. So, those three things. And that comes from being open to navigating, open to pivoting. Because I remember in our first interview, I was very much interested in HR, which I still am. And so Clarita declared that I'm having my HR consultancy. I'm still very much interested in HR.
That was the plan.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Maybe still is. We'll see.
It's still in there.
She's still the agency for CME Accounting LLC, though. She's doing work with us, yes.
Yeah, so it's still very much there. Events is also a passion. So bringing these two together to grow the podcast. And then who knows? We might be able to be like many podcasts we know. And we have aspirations to be guests on a particular show.
Yes. with a particular person.
Yes, or persons. Well, as I think about it, I think there are about 3 of them that we really aspire to be on. We'll share more as we go along.
I believe it will happen though. All right. So that is something we'll definitely be looking forward to. And maybe, so for me, blossoming, it's already happening. Just being able to meet all those people, have all those conversations, to be able to just, honestly, when I go to events, like you mentioned earlier, I'm like, yes, and I have a podcast. I'm a co-host on this podcast. And there is just a little bit more interest there. I feel more like myself.
Empowered.
Yes, because if we go back to when I started, I was in a very difficult place personally, and just getting on camera or just hearing, like just speaking into this mic was
Yeah, because
difficult.
I'm saying, I wanted to say as well, you've come a really long way from your recordings. Because your first set of recordings, you were a bit, do we want to say, I don't know if that's a word,
Yeah.
but the tempo was very low.
I was scared. That was me
Yes.
being scared.
Yeah, and now she's blossomed, so she's blooming, and there's a brightness, there's more energy, and you've grown from that part. You've gone through that rough patch. There are always challenges, but you've navigated across those rough patches, and you had begun with an end in mind. So begin, build, blossom.
The end keep changing because it's become so much more than I could have imagined. And bringing you on board just,
Well, thanks. I'm happy to be here.
yeah, it changed things in a good way. And I'm seeing ways things might even change for us even more. And we just haven't seen it yet. But our names are being spoken in spaces.
Yes, that we never thought before, when this girl from Labrie and this girl from 33 Astramali in Guyana didn't think that we'd ever be at this point.
Yes. And I know, honestly, it's like sometimes we look at the people who have done amazing things and we're like, what if we could be that person? Sometimes not taking the step to get there.
That is so true. Yes. So you say, oh, I wish I could. I always looked at TED Talks and I would see, as you're saying that, and I would say, I wonder if I could do that. I would love to do something like that. I never even envisioned it being possible. But today, I could see it being possible, continuing on this trajectory. And there is 2 heads are definitely better than one.
Awesome. I can't find a better way to end this. So thank you, Angela. Thank you, all listeners. And
this was Begin,
Build, Blossom.
See you in the next season.
Yes. Have a good one. Thanks for listening to Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey. We hope today's conversation gave you the insights and inspiration you need to move forward on your own path. Don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. Do you have feedback? We'd love to hear from you at podcast@cmeaccountingllc.com. Join us again next week for a new episode.